Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us today for Thursdays with AARP Wisconsin. I am Amber Miller, not only your host for today, but also the Associate State Director of Community Outreach with AARP Wisconsin. Today, we're going to be talking to our guests actually shortly, but towards the end of this program, we're going to be talking about upcoming events for this month that you could take advantage of, whether you are a member or not a member of AARP Wisconsin. And then also, please remember the AARP Community Connections Initiative. This started earlier this year due to the COVID pandemic, but you can talk to one of our 800 volunteers with AARP that have been trained to make phone calls to see how you're doing. You can request these daily, weekly, or monthly. So please make sure to pass along this information also to your network. So today we're going to be talking about the Wisconsin Active Together, which is a group of diverse partners working to promote healthy, thriving communities where people can easily and safely walk, ride a bike, and be physically active, which really coincides with the AARP livable communities. So today we're going to be talking to Abe Lenoch, the Community Project Coordinator with 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin. Thank you so much for joining me today, Abe.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Amber.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get started, can you talk a little bit about to our viewers who maybe are not familiar with 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin? Would you mind telling them just a little bit about the organization?
Yeah, of course. So, 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin is a land use planning organization. We started in the mid 90s. A group of people came together to help write the comprehensive planning law and then ultimately pass. It's the Smart Growth Comprehensive Planning Law. It requires all communities to write a comprehensive plan. So, a 20-year outlook on their future development and progress in their community. And since then, we've fought off some repeal efforts of the law, but it's still in place. And since then, we're focused a lot on healthy communities, positive economic benefits for communities, and overall sound land use planning and advocating for that around the state.
Great. And I know the 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin does oversee the Wisconsin Active Together, also known as WAT. So if we reference that acronym, that's what we'll be talking about. But before we get into the details of Wisconsin Active Together, could you start a little bit about, the basics, and also could you share what active transportation is and why it's so important?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that the word active transportation sounds a little bit counterintuitive, at least to me. When I hear the word transportation, I think of big vehicles like trains and planes and cars and buses, things that move a lot of people around. So sometimes it's hard to imagine that active transportation is just people getting around using physical activity. So what we say at Wisconsin Active Together and 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin is people walking, biking, or rolling, and rolling being anything on wheels, basically wheelchair, rollerblades, could be anything of that nature. And I think a lot of the viewers, maybe knowing livable communities with AARP, might be familiar with active transportation, but just to give a more basic definition of active transportation: walking, biking, rolling. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to emphasize just that how important active transportation is. It's something that we talk about at 1,000 Friends and now with the Wisconsin Active Together network. But I have 5 different things that active transportation helps with that makes it even more important for communities to focus on. One being that it can build community. People that are moving around and active end up interacting with community members more and are forming those connections and relationships with the community members, especially on foot or on a bike versus in their car. It can also help build a sense of place in a community. It's a lot easier to be aware of your surroundings when you're on foot or on a bike. And so it just helps build a sense of place and help people understand like the built infrastructure in the community, and that can be really important. It's just another scale to go down to help build that sense of place. And then obviously, um, walking, biking, rolling is very important for health and well-being. I think a lot of us know that right now, considering the pandemic and being as the days get colder and the sunlight gets shorter. We all use getting outside as a form of stress relief or just a way to get the blood flowing. And so active transportation is extremely important for health and well-being. And then local economies, to help local economies. That's also really important through not only through if you have access to bike and pedestrian infrastructure in the community, getting to services closer to your home and therefore within your local community, but also in Wisconsin, especially bike tourism is a big plus for communities. And so focusing on getting people in from outside and getting people to your community. And the last thing I'll say, it's a little bit harder. It's not a direct connection. And this is something that we talk about with 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin all the time, but it's also good for the environment because communities with good bike and pedestrian infrastructure, with good active transportation infrastructure, often are more condensed. And just that sound land use planning that I talked about at the beginning, they often have a better planning structure and allow for more open land space outside of the community, which can be good for working lands, but also for environmental conservation and preservation.
Great. If you are joining us, we are talking to Abe Lenoch. I've been practicing. Hopefully I said it right again with trying with 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin. He's talking about the initiative of Wisconsin Active Together. So we will be taking questions throughout the show. If you have any, if you're watching us on our Facebook.com page, please post them below, as well as YouTube. So Abe, so now we could talk a little bit about more of the Wisconsin Active Together. So can you give us a brief overview of this initiative and what makes it so unique to our state?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I'm just going to share just briefly some of the work that 1,000 Friends has done around transportation, and then why we feel it's such a good fit. And then I'll go into the overview of Wisconsin Active Together. So some of you might know, but 1,000 Friends has been involved in transportation work a lot in the recent past. And we like to think of transportation as a system in Wisconsin. So active transportation, what we're talking about today with Wisconsin Active Together, fits into the whole transportation system. Obviously, you can't go to the Apostle Islands on your bike from Madison. That's going to be a long trek. So we look at what 1,000 Friends is looking at is one of the things we do is we're against highway expansions, new highway expansions, and that's something that we've actually been involved in lawsuits in the past, and won because of expanding highways. We feel that money can be used elsewhere, and some of the other programs that we're involved in, workforce transportation, so providing public transportation specifically, but other forms of transportation to get people to jobs. Oftentimes there's a disconnect between where people live and where the jobs are. And then there's regional transit authorities. So if you're not familiar with those, the acronym is RTA. They're currently banned in the state of Wisconsin. I think about 5 years ago, there was a law that banned them. And a regional transit authority would allow communities in the same region to plan their transportation system together. And so that's something we feel is really important. And then we get the clean transportation and some other issues, but active transportation is also something that we talked about, and it's a part of the transportation system, and a really important one, often a last mile. You might have heard the phrase last mile. It's really important for that, but also for recreation and just getting out. So that's why we feel like Wisconsin Active Together was a perfect fit for us. We're already working statewide on those issues, and now we can bring this huge coalition. So Wisconsin Active Together is a statewide designation network. That's how it started. So giving out Active Together designation awards to communities. So we've had 3 in the past. Well, let me back up a little bit. 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin took over WAT, is what we call it. I'll use WAT from now on.
That's okay. Yeah.
And we took over WAT this year. And so the previous 3 years, there were application periods, and there are now 24 communities. And the best part about it is they vary in size and location. And then the other cool thing, yeah, you can see on the map right there, all over the state of Wisconsin. And it's not just the big ones like Madison, Milwaukee. They aren't even actually Wisconsin Active Together communities. We have such a rich local, a group of local coalitions as part of Wisconsin Active Together. And one of the things that's really that we feel like is so strong, that makes Wisconsin Active Together so strong, is that they are all local communities, and they came together. They came together because they wanted to support each other, but also learn from each other. And yeah, it's kind of an overview of what we have going on at Wisconsin Active Together. We're 1,000 Friends is working on expanding WAT and building off of the designation program to make it more resources and advocacy, and go from there.
Great. And Abe, I know you alluded to the fact, of course, with the epidemic, pandemic that's impacted the U.S. How has this impacted your work with the network, and what has Wisconsin, as you say, communities are doing?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of us probably just anecdotally looking out our windows are aware that there are more people out and about, walking, biking, especially as winter comes along, maybe getting a little more cabin fever, getting out and about. Maybe your local bike shop is out of bikes. I know I live in Madison, and a lot of bike shops are just swamped with people coming in to get their bikes fixed up. So in some ways, it's actually been huge for active transportation, and maybe not necessarily always to get to services, but now it's more recreational and huge for getting out and getting some exercise. It's been and that's something that WAT and 1,000 Friends is looking to build on. Obviously, people are using walking and biking and rolling to get out, and maybe just as a mindfulness activity, or to walk and talk with a friend while social distancing. There's so many benefits that walking provides that we're hoping to build on that momentum and help people recognize that can be used going on after the pandemic. So that's how it's impacted individuals. But Wisconsin Active Together is made up of a lot of different community organizations and then local government agencies. So you don't have to be a local government agency to apply for WAT. You can be any sort of community organization involved in active transportation. And so we have some county representatives that work in public health and are totally working on the pandemic and focused on mitigating problems with the pandemic in their community. But then we also have communities that are like, I'm thinking of the city of Appleton. They have a lot of local government agencies. They still have a lot of infrastructure happening. Those are things that were built into the budget before the pandemic, and they're still going on. So construction projects are still going on for communities. But a lot of the events, like Watertown has a Watertown Saturday Walks event, and I know that one was canceled. I'm not sure if they started that up, but last I heard that they had to cancel that. So more of the in-person events are being canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the communities, obviously, this is just a tough time for everybody, and the focus should be on, or is on, mitigating the effects of the pandemic. But there are still people getting out, and I know that a lot of folks that are involved with Wisconsin Active Together are working really hard to make it easier for people to walk and bike, and then also provide some opportunities, maybe some socially distanced events to keep things moving and keep people's morale up, I guess.
Absolutely. And we're going to be taking a question. This is for Abe. So can you explain why RTAs were banned in Wisconsin?
I cannot explain that. That is a legislative choice by our legislators. I know that Chippewa Valley, I don't know if that was an official RTA. I know Dane County had one, Milwaukee. They were banned, and that's all I know. I can't really say much to why they were banned.
Okay. Our next question. So how does Wisconsin compare to other states in emphasizing workforce transportation? Any good examples of cities of different sizes that are doing it right?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So how does it compare to other states emphasizing workforce transportation? I think there's a lot of talk within businesses and around coalitions and around workforce transportation advocates. I think it hasn't quite reached. I think that's where you make the difference. You convince businesses that they need to get people to their jobs, and they know that because they don't have as many employees, or they're having a tougher time finding employees. So, I can't speak to how it compares to other states. I know that it's ongoing in Wisconsin. It's something that 1,000 Friends is definitely considered or focused on. I know that I want to give some examples, but I don't know for sure. We do have a transportation policy analyst. His name's Greg May, and I can try and get back to you guys on that question.
Sure.
Definitely. Yeah, that sounds good.
That'd be great.
And so I'm the network coordinator, and I work on a few other different projects, but Greg's our transportation guru, so I can get back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Abe, we understand you have a new resource for active living this winter that was just released. If you can kind of give us just a little information about that.
Yeah, definitely. I've alluded to it a little bit, but obviously this winter is going to be tough with the pandemic for everyone. We can't be inside with our loved ones, with our family and friends, even during the holidays. At least it's going to be more difficult to be with those people. And so what we wanted to provide is a resource for, so it's made in collaboration with with the WATT network. And so the audience for this resource is community organizations, community leaders, local elected officials, Chamber of Commerce, local government agencies. But the ideas in the playbook that we have here can be used by individuals. And so what we called it the COVID Winter and Active Living Playbook for Wisconsin. So there's a lot of suggested activities for communities to keep people active during the winter. And the one important thing that's included in this playbook is that there's COVID-19 precautions for each event. So suggested ideas for making it a safe event in your community related to the COVID pandemic. And so where applicable, there are definitely right there on the screen, ideas for making it more safe for community members. And then the scale, as it says on the screen there, neighborhood to county, a lot of those suggested activities could go from a neighborhood. There's a neighborhood scavenger hunt on there as a suggested activity, but that could be scaled up to town-wide or community-wide. So there's a lot of opportunities, a light show. There's a couple different light shows in Madison, and the line gets so long.
Mm-hmm.
People love light shows, so
Yes.
that's a really big one. And maybe your community already has one, but I thought we would include that one on there. And then I just urge people to share it with whoever they think would benefit from it. It's meant to be shared and meant to be a resource for anyone, really.
Great. And Abe, I just have one final question for you. So what can we keep an eye out from Watt Network this upcoming few months?
Yeah, so we, like I said, we took over Wisconsin Active Together this year, and so we're rolling it out as we go. And it was a 3-year network and a lot going on in a lot of communities to get in touch with. I know as I'm speaking on this video, we are still working on getting in touch with all the communities. So we've got a lot of great stuff going on. An application, like I said, there were 3 applications in the past. There's an application in 2021 that will be open eventually, so we'll send that out. So keep an eye out for that if you think your community could become a Wisconsin Active Together community. That's a great opportunity. And the application is not meant to steer people away. We want as many communities as possible to be a part of Wisconsin Active Together. And so if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to email us, email me specifically, and we can, once the application goes out. And then we had the website on the screen before, and what we're working on right now is, so I mentioned it before, but we're working on building the network out from just designation to resources and advocacy. And so we're working on new website content, make it more clear about what we're doing. And so that'll come out soon. It'll be the same domain name, but it'll look a little different in the near future. And then finally, as we continue to work with communities and continue to build Wisconsin Active Together, we'll be sharing local stories, local successes from Watt communities, and even sharing about local trails that highlighted local trails from communities, from Watt communities.
Great. And we definitely encourage you to check out that website that Abe was talking about. There were some really, really cool and creative ideas, especially during the cold and winter months, which we know in Wisconsin is more than half of the year. So definitely check out those resources. Check out 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin. And Abe, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate you taking time to talk about your great organization and the initiative that you are just trying to instill in people, that it's still really a great opportunity to get outside, and especially right now when it's 70 some odd degrees out. But definitely looking forward to the cold months, just because there is an epidemic, there are still ways that you can still stay active. So thank you so much, Abe.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Thanks to AARP Wisconsin for having us on here and for giving us a platform to talk about Watt. We're really excited. And
thank you.
Yeah, so thank you.
Great. And before we are complete the show, please know that there's 2 upcoming events that we would love for you to register for. One is upcoming next week, which is the Livable Communities 101 in Wisconsin. This is all about the Livable Community Initiative. So if you are a member of your community, would like to learn more about that, please join us. And then also November 12th is our Home Fit virtual workshop. So this is all about how you can stay in your home longer, cheap or low cost or free modifications to your home. So we look forward to seeing you then. Both of those can be found on the website that was just up, or you can call the 1-877 number below to register online. And once again, those are open to anybody in the community, any age. We just want to make sure that we can give you valuable resources. And then also join us next Thursday, where we're going to be talking all about advocacy. So it is National Family Family Caregiving Month. We'll be talking with Helen Marksticks out of the AARP Wisconsin office. So please make sure to come back a week from today, bring your questions, and she will be here to talk about that. We really appreciate, once again, Abe, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you joining us today too. Please make sure to like this video and feel free to also share it on your Facebook or YouTube page. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you very